On Friday, August 5, 2022, the Tahoe National Forest was alive with warm air, clear skies, and the energy of teens trying to hold on to the final days of summer. For 16-year-old Key Rodney, it was supposed to be a simple night out one last get-together before she began her first semester at Sierra College. Earlier that day, she spent time with friends, making creme brulee and relaxing after finishing high school early. Her parents, Lindsay and Daniel, couldn't have been more proud. Key was responsible, creative, and excited about the future. That evening, she left home around 6 p.m., heading toward a campground locals called The Sanctuary, a quiet lakeside area about 15 minutes from her house. Before arriving, she stopped at a truckee gas station, where surveillance cameras captured her calmly walking through the store before heading back to her silver Honda CR-V. A few hours later, she reached the Prosser campground with her friend Magdalene, where they met up with another friend, Sammy Smith. The gathering was meant to be a low-key celebration, but it grew quickly. Teens from all over the region arrived. Some estimates claimed up to 300 attendees. With wildfire restrictions banning campfires, the only light came from glow sticks, open car trunks, and scattered lanterns. Despite the crowd, Key stayed close to her friends. Sammy later said the two shared drinks, chatted, and drifted between groups until settling inside Key's car around 11 p.m. to charge their phones. Around 11:30 p.m., Key texted her mom that she'd be heading home soon. Lindsay replied with a simple message, "Be safe, I love you." Key texted back, "Okay, I love you too." It was the last message she ever sent. By morning, Key's room was empty, her car was gone. Her phone went silent, and her mother's instinct told her something was terribly wrong. When Saturday morning arrived, Lindsay Rodney expected to hear the familiar sounds of her daughter, waking up footsteps in the hallway, music playing softly, or the creak of her bedroom door. Instead, the house was silent. At first, she assumed Key had slept at a friend's place after the gathering. But as the minutes passed and no message came through, an uneasy feeling began to settle in. Key was responsible, dependable, and always checked in. Silence from her was unusual, almost alarming. By mid-morning, Lindsay began calling and texting repeatedly, each attempt going straight to voicemail. She reached out to Key's close friends, hoping someone had heard from her. Their answers were identical. They hadn't seen her since the previous night. Some believed she had left the campground alone. Others thought she might have driven someone home, but no one could say for sure. What Lindsay needed most, a clear timeline, simply didn't exist. At 12:30 p.m., she reported her daughter missing to the Placer County Sheriff's Office. Investigators responded immediately, aware that missing teen cases require urgent action. Deputies headed to Prosser Campground, where Key was last seen. The area, now empty and quiet, showed no signs of the massive gathering from hours earlier. No lights, no cars, no crowd. Detectives searched shoreline paths, nearby trails, and open fields, looking for any trace of her or her vehicle. As the initial timeline was assembled, troubling gaps emerged. No one had witnessed her leaving. Her phone last pinged near the campground at 12:33 a.m., then went offline. Her Honda CR-V had vanished as well. Authorities realized quickly that they were dealing with a case where every minute mattered. By late afternoon, search teams expanded their efforts. Helicopters scanned the reservoir. K-9 units swept the forest. Volunteers spread across the terrain. But despite the urgency, one fact remained painfully clear: 16-year-old Key Rodney had disappeared into the night, and no one knew where she had gone or why. A Saturday evening arrived, the search for Key Rodney intensified beyond anything the small truckee community had experienced in years. Local agencies, volunteer organizations, and hundreds of residents came forward, determined to bring the 16-year-old home. The Placer County Sheriff's Office established a command post near Prosser Creek Reservoir, coordinating with Nevada County, the FBI, and search and rescue specialists trained in water, air, and terrain operations. The scale of the response reflected the urgency felt by everyone involved. Volunteers scoured dirt roads, hiking paths, and campsite clearings throughout the night. Some brought drones. Others printed and distributed flyers. Every hour mattered, and the community moved as if time itself were slipping away. Meanwhile, investigators focused on reconstructing Key's final known moments. They interviewed attendees from the gathering, reviewed store surveillance footage, and analyzed her phone activity. But the more information they collected, the more complicated the picture became. Reports from partygoers varied widely. Some recalled seeing Key socializing near the cars. Others said she appeared calm and in control. No one reported signs of distress or conflict. Yet none could say definitively what happened after midnight. Detectives noted that conflicting accounts were common in large gatherings, especially those involving teenagers, but the inconsistencies made the timeline difficult to lock down. By Sunday morning, the case had reached national attention. Missing person. Alerts spread across social media, and law enforcement urged the public to come forward with any detail, no matter how small. At the reservoir, teams focused on the water, understanding that lakes can be unpredictable and difficult to search thoroughly. Boats equipped with sonar scanned the depths while divers worked methodically through designated sectors. Despite the extensive efforts, no sign of Key or her Honda CR-V surfaced. The lack of physical evidence left investigators with a troubling question that grew heavier by the hour. How could a teenager and her vehicle disappear so completely, in an area filled with people, without leaving a single trace? By the start of the new week, investigators shifted their focus to the most critical element of the case, Key Rodney's missing Honda CR-V. In many disappearance investigations, a vehicle often provides the breakthrough, and detectives understood that locating it could answer questions that no interview or timeline could. They began tracing every possible route Key might have taken. After leaving the gathering, studying maps of the region, and identifying roads, turnoffs, and access points surrounding Prosser Creek Reservoir, teams reviewed surveillance footage from businesses, gas stations, and traffic cameras across Truckee and the nearby highway corridors. Although the area had limited camera coverage, investigators hoped Key's vehicle might appear briefly on one of the recorded feeds. Parallel to this effort, law enforcement requested assistance from regional agencies, ensuring the alert for her CR-V extended across Nevada County and into neighboring jurisdictions. Witness interviews continued as well. Detectives re-interviewed several attendees from the gathering, seeking clarity on the conflicting accounts from the previous days. Some witnesses recalled Key being near her car shortly after midnight. Others believe she stayed closer to the main group. A few said they thought she had driven off, but none could identify the exact direction or time. With each statement, investigators attempted to refine the timeline, but the absence of consistent details made progress slow. Meanwhile, specialized search teams expanded operations around nearby lakes, reservoirs, and wooded areas. The challenging terrain required deliberate and methodical work, and every new location brought renewed urgency. Boats continued to scan underwater sectors with sonar, while ground crews checked for tire impressions, disturbed soil, or debris that could indicate a vehicle's path. At home, Key's family waited for updates, clinging to any piece of information investigators shared. Her disappearance had become the center of an increasingly complex search effort, one involving land, air, and water. Yet despite the growing scale of operations, Key's vehicle remained missing, and the absence of clear evidence left investigators facing a troubling reality. They were searching without a single confirmed lead. On Sunday, August 21st, 2 weeks after Key Rodney disappeared, search efforts expanded once again around Prosser Creek Reservoir. Groups continued scanning the surrounding forest, while specialized teams focused on areas previously searched but not yet fully cleared. Although multiple agencies had already passed through the reservoir's perimeter, the water remained a central point of concern. Large bodies of water can obscure vehicles, even with sonar, and investigators understood that repeated passes were often necessary. That morning, a volunteer dive team known for assisting in missing person cases arrived at Prosser. Their equipment included sonar capable of detecting large submerged objects, and they began methodically scanning sections of the reservoir. Within a short time, their sonar displayed a shape resting beneath the surface large. solid and positioned close to the shoreline. The image resembled a vehicle. Law enforcement was notified immediately. Deputies restricted public access to the area while divers prepared to enter the water. Visibility beneath the surface was limited, but as divers descended, the outline of a vehicle slowly came into view. The shape, the size, and the location all pointed to one possibility. When they reached the driver's side door, confirmation became unavoidable. The submerged vehicle was Key Rodney's Honda CR-V. Recovery operations began at once. Boats and tow vehicles were positioned to safely extract the car without disturbing potential evidence. Slowly, the vehicle was pulled from the water, breaking the surface in a moment that brought both relief and heartbreak. Inside, investigators made a tragic discovery. Human remains were located within the vehicle. Although official identification would require further examination, the circumstances left little doubt. News of the discovery traveled quickly. Families, volunteers, and community members who had spent days searching gathered quietly near the scene. For them, the reservoir had always represented an unanswered question. Now, it held the answer no one wanted. The recovery of Key's vehicle marked the first definitive turning point in the investigation, bringing an end to the search but beginning the difficult process of determining how the car entered the water and what happened in the final moments before it. Submerged, following the discovery of Key Rodney's Honda CR-V, investigators turned their attention to reconstructing her final moments. The California Highway Patrol's Major Accident Investigation Team began a systematic review of the vehicle, documenting damage, analyzing water intrusion patterns, and evaluating whether mechanical failure could have played a role. The car showed no signs of forced entry, tampering, or external impact. Instead, the damage was consistent with a vehicle slowly entering the reservoir and settling underwater. Inside the car, investigators found Key's personal belongings, including items she was believed to have had with her the night she disappeared. There were no indications of a struggle, no signs of another person's involvement, and no evidence suggesting she had attempted to exit the vehicle once it entered the water. Toxicology reports and autopsy findings later indicated drowning as the official cause of death, aligning with the conditions in which the car was found. Authorities reviewed surveillance footage, phone data, and witness statements once more to reconstruct the timeline. Key was last seen at the Prosser family campground around 12:30 a.m., and her phone's final activity pinged near the reservoir shortly after. Those who had seen her that night recalled that she appeared tired, and some noted she had consumed alcohol during the gathering. Investigators concluded that Key likely became disoriented while attempting to drive home in the early morning darkness, mistakenly heading toward the water instead of the main road. With no evidence of foul play, the case was officially closed as a tragic accident. Law enforcement emphasized that the investigation was guided entirely by physical evidence, digital data, and the condition of the recovered vehicle. The community, however, continued to grieve deeply. For those who had searched for weeks, the outcome brought both closure and sorrow. Friends and family honored Key's memory through vigils, memorial gatherings, and tributes that reflected her lively spirit and the impact she had on those around her. While the investigation answered the question of where Key had gone, it also left behind a profound reminder of how quickly a single moment can change everything.